Hey there, YouTube. Welcome back. This is the Allegheny Northern in N scale, and we're going to do, yes, another layout update because pretty much what I have to show you is stuff that I'm working on. So I am making my way around the layout, and I am getting track set up for the first run. And I am, not that I'm rushing this process because you can only go so fast, but I am definitely trying to get through this initial process. And I'm probably 2 weeks away from being able to run trains, I'm thinking. Maybe 2 weeks. So last week was Halloween, and I lost 2 evenings to celebrations. The weekend before that, I was out of town, and I lost that weekend. And this past weekend, I had to catch up on life. So the leaves were not going to pick themselves up. For those of you who are in southern climates who don't have the change of seasons, you don't know what that's like to spend hours and hours and hours cleaning up leaves from every corner of your yard and flower beds and everything else. But if you don't do it, it kills the grass and ruins the flowers and all kinds of other stuff. And then the spring is just an ugly, ugly mess. Plus, all kinds of little critters try to move into it, and it's just not good. So, but I got probably half the yard done. I mean, I did the whole yard, but there were still half the leaves around the tree. And it looks like this weekend, maybe another quarter of them fell off. So I think I might give it one more weekend since we're in a bit of a warm snap here. So I don't know that I'm going to be doing any yard work, but that means a whole weekend in the train room. So I'm hoping for some big progress. No. Okay. And then, of course, we had some pretty exciting times here in the good old US of A. So it was election week, and I'm sure everyone is very aware of that and is tired of hearing about it. And we're not going to talk about it because half of you are going to be happy and half of you are not going to be happy. And I don't really care which side you fall on. But if you make some kind of silly video on TikTok and I find it, I probably will be laughing at you. So don't do that. Don't do that in general. But definitely don't do that over something like this. So anyway, that's my advice to you for that. Okay, now there was all kinds of time off for focusing on other things that were not trains. I guess is the moral of the story here. So now, but anyway, we're back to trains, and here's what I did get done. And you are looking at the end of the old staging yard behind the furnace. So I cut it all back. I took out the number sixes, which were overkill, put in number fours, but I did more than that. I gave myself a very nice long lead into that yard so that I can actually do a little bit of switching back here because I can use this sort of as my staging yard for some locals, which is cool. And then I did some rearranging of my track down here. So I put the double cross over here, and this is ahead of the station, and it's way ahead of the station now. But I also rearranged the way this track runs a little bit. So if you recall, these are going to be the two mainline tracks now, and this is going to be a nice long lead to that small yard down there. So I will be able to do a lot of switching now between this yard and this yard down here. It's going to make this whole industry area that is part of the old layout. It's going to make that a whole lot easier to work and to pick up and drop off cars. So I'm very excited about that. I obviously haven't done anything with this industry here, but that's coming. And so I want to show you something here, and it's going to require me to get my remote control. So hold on just a second. Okay, so that's what I wanted you to see, the blue light. And why would I be excited about the blue light? Well, for a year now, maybe a little over a year, I have been tempting you guys with a night rain scene. And if you recall, the requirement was I wanted to do a night rain scene where it was not done by special effects. So if you were looking at the railroad in the room or in the video, you would see what looked like a rainy night, and it wouldn't need the photo lens or any kind of specialty sort of deal to see it. You would just see the rain scene. So this pretty much is going to amount to the amount of special effects that scene is going to have, and that is blue light. So then I started thinking, well, who doesn't love a fall rainy night? Especially when you're inside, maybe by a fire. But fall rainy nights tend to lead to rainy winter nights, and boy, do I love transition scenes. So why not extend this to an entire section of layout now that I have it? And I want to show you where that blue light goes. So stick with me here as I turn you around. Yep, this entire back section here is going to be a night scene. Now, there's a lot of work that needs to go into this. There's a lot of things that need to change to make that happen. But basically, from these two sides all the way down, we're going to have a night rain scene, and we're going to transition into a night snow scene, and then back out again. So, okay, so that's coming. This is going to be the first scene that I start modeling when I redo the modeling and I start getting back into actually scenery. But we're a ways away from that, so don't get too excited. I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but that's what we're going to do. So let's go back to the track. Okay, obviously I can't have this track kind of curving out in the no man's land here, so I need to build a small 45-degree section here just to fill that in. So it's probably going to come out to about here, so I got a little bit of space for some scenery. I don't want my trains tumbling off the edge of the layout onto the floor, so we're going to come out just a little bit and fill that with some foam, and that'll be good. I do have a Y section in here. That's not necessarily for turning trains around, although it can be used for that, but it's more for getting myself up to the upper level of the layout, because that helix is going to be down that far end. Haven't gotten that far yet, but I need a way to be able to get trains heading this direction up the helix, and trains that are heading in this direction need to be able to go up the helix. So that's how we're going to do that. Creates a little bit of fun track geometry here. I'm gonna funk around with this a little bit. You can see I've kind of got it all pinned in place because I used the Kato Flex track instead of the unit track, but this is their cork, which lines up perfectly with their unit track. So if you look right here where you can see that I'll put you right there, and I'll zoom you in there, you can see that they are lined up perfectly height-wise. Well, they would be if this was all tacked down and not pushed up. So that's the way to go. That's the other thing I'm going to start this weekend is I'm going to start tacking this board down, because even under here, this board is not attached to anything. You see how it's bouncing up and down? And so I want to start getting this all glued down and lined up, and that includes lining up stuff like that. So where there's some elevation changes and I need to do some risers and all that sort of stuff, I'm gonna get that done this weekend, so hopefully I can get this leveled out and our track won't be hanging in no man's land. The weather's going to be beautiful on Saturday, so that's going to let me get outside and cut the wood that I need to do to make the risers, etc., etc. So yeah, we're going to get that taken care of. And that means I will be able to call the lower loop, I'm going to say about 75% complete. So let's take a walk over to see what else I was. Okay, so now I'm also working on getting this area laid out. So this is going to be front and center on the layout, just like it was previously. And I want to have this as a beautiful locomotive display area. So all of those fine scale train models that I have, I want to be able to show them off when I'm not using them. And this is going to be where I do that. So, this area was not quite as wide as I had hoped it would be. It had to be that way just because I needed to have a location where I could do a programming track and set up my ESU Loc Sound programmer, all that sort of stuff. And so if you look right here, you'll see that I have cut that small notch out, which would have been perfect for adding a nice section here, but I needed to be able to get down into here, and I couldn't expand any further out because then I'd be in the aisleway. So kind of a trade-off here. This scene got a little bit shorter. It's okay, we'll make it work. But what I did do and what I was able to do is finalize how I'm going to have my terminal for the passenger trains. It's still going to be a stub-end terminal. It's not going to be a run-through. I had considered a run-through based on the amount of Amtrak equipment that I had, but And when I reconsidered how everything was laying out, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna waste that space because this is primarily a freight railroad anyway. So stuff that doesn't fit comfortably in the terminal, rather than being crammed into the terminal like it was on the last layout, I'm just going to keep it in staging because I have a boatload of staging track now. So that's what we're gonna do with that, and I can bring it out when I need it. So got that all sort of worked out, and I'm in the process right now. There's going to be a car loading area right here for the Amtrak auto train, so I just need to put those tracks in. It's going to be made out of flex track because I got tired of trying to find the curve that I wanted to use, and I made a funky curve over here with the turnouts. And so rather than funking around with that anymore, I am just going to make it with the flex track because I have it, and then we're going to be good. And you can see I'm also going to be putting in some flex track in some of these areas here too, just because it's an odd number of shape, and rather than having to go out and buy more unit track, I'm going to use track that I already have. So that's how we're going to handle that. But in making this long story short, I'm going to have one small little strip here where I can put a locomotive or two, and then down here I'm going to have those 3 tracks, these 2 tracks, and then of course into the actual roundhouse. Now this is the Atlas roundhouse kit. It is not the Cato unit track kit, and that is why I have a sort of funky track arrangement here. So I'm going to, when I lay this out, I'm going to space these out as much as I can so that I can actually get locomotives. And this was a problem with the old one. The way the track curved, you couldn't get locomotives past each other because it was too close. It didn't look like it, but it was. So we're going to fix that here when we lay this track out. And it's just going to be a matter of pushing this back a little bit further, extending these tracks out, and then this will, it'll give me some space to move around in here. So I achieve that by taking these concrete sections that typically fan out here, and they keep it very, very wide. By taking those off and just connecting the flex track right to the turntable, I am able to sort of get past that and have everything line up, because these don't line up with the Atlas building at all. So just one of those other little compromise things. But once this is all scenic in and corked in and laid out, you're not going to notice that anyway. So I don't think it's going to be a huge okay deal. So one of the last things I hope to get done here this weekend, if I can get a solid 2 days down into the train room and I don't have to go do home stuff, is to complete this connection, to straighten out the main line, extend the intermodal yard, and sort of clean this whole thing up. And that means at that point I will have a complete loop on the lower level that I can use to get everything around. And if that's the case, then the next step will be to start putting in the rail joiners, the powered rail feeders. The bus line's already run. I just need to connect down to it. So soldering on some wires, and then making sure my isolation joints are in the right place, so that when I start power districting this layout, I'm making up words here, this layout, it is going to just be a matter of disconnecting the feeders from the bus line, installing the circuit breaker, and then down to the bus line again. So right now, to get the layout up and running, I'm not going to have all of that circuit breaker work in place, because I need a truckload of circuit breakers, and this whole layout ran without them before. That's just something I'm doing so I don't shut the whole damn thing down every time I have an issue. But yeah, I'm going to be getting that started and getting that worked on. That's going to be a kind of an ongoing thing as I work my way through the various improvements that we're making to the system here. So okay, that's it for this week, and we'll catch you here same time, same place next week. Until then, everybody keep happy modeling.